Oh, yes.
Welcome back once again, everyone. Today we're taking a look at the brand new and still not officially announced Transformers Buzzworthy Bumblebee War for Cybertron Trilogy, Bumblebee and Spike Witwicky. This was the first toy out of the Buzzworthy Bumblebee subline that was leaked out over the internet, and it's a bit of an oddity because it's a never-before-seen mold, in fact two, because you have Bumblebee and you have Spike in his exosuit. It's branded for War for Cybertron Trilogy as a whole, yet uses background art very reminiscent of that used for Kingdom, which leads me to believe that maybe it was dropped from Kingdom or something. And the Bumblebee himself is significantly smaller than his recent deluxe toy, and even smaller than the other core class figures. Plus, he sports some unknown alt mode that's not his, standard Beetle form. So where this guy's supposed to fall as far as toy line, I have no idea. My best bet would be that he's supposed to represent one of the time-displaced G1 characters in Kingdom, along the lines of like Galvatron and Cyclonus. It's kind of further evidenced by Spike's appearance here. Though, I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like the artwork... Spike looks like a kid in this artwork. I don't know, maybe he's not supposed to be. Maybe it's adult Spike, I'm not entirely sure. But my best guess is this is supposed to be like Season 3 Bumblebee and Spike, gone back in time like the Decepticons. But we don't know. Because again, this toy hasn't even been officially acknowledged by its creators, so we'll find out. Anyway, if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at the toys and their packaging, then we'll open it up, we'll see the instructions, and then we'll see Bumblebee and Spike themselves in their vehicle and robot modes, because yes, Spike technically has a vehicle mode. I'll be doing some group shots and comparisons today, and then at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts. So these toys come in very unique packaging. They're done in the old blister card style, rather wide. And you just see Bumblebee right here in the middle, Spike off to the side, and you even get Bumblebee's little blaster, so that's cool. They don't leave him without a weapon, which is making me think this is like a repurposed Kingdom Core class figure, because those guys actually have weapons. You get this cool artwork of Bee and Spike looking like they're charging into battle against some sort of, prehistoric backdrop. I think that's lava down there, maybe, or it might just be the lighting. I don't know. Very Beast Wars-like, though. You do get the evergreen Bumblebee design here on the front, which is pretty standard for the subline, though there are very few releases in this line that actually use that design, so odd. On the back, you get renders for the toys. You get Bee in his vehicle and robot modes, and he takes 11 steps to transform. And then Spike, in his 2 modes, takes 1 step to transform. But, it's a tiny figure. What do you expect? So, it's a neat little package. It's interesting. Again, I don't really know why it exists, but I'm not upset it does. Okay, here's our instruction book, and it's done up in the same black, white, and orange-yellow as the Studio Series toy was from the Buzzworthy subline. And right here on the front, you can see your little render of Bumblebee and Spike. And you unfold this. You get your transformation for Bumblebee from robot to vehicle, which continues around on the back. And then you get this blurb here that shows you how to have him either wield his little blaster or store it under the vehicle. So that's good. He's actually got some good weapon storage. And then your super complex transformation to get Spike to his vehicle mode. Very complex. And I will say that according to the renders and the instructions, these little wheel well wings that Bumblebee has are apparently supposed to stick like out to the sides, though you can fold them back more to kind of give them a more G1 silhouette. All right, here we get to see our 2 characters in their vehicle modes. You get Bumblebee in a very Penny Racer-like vehicle, which kind of appropriate considering the toy's origins, though again, it's not based on a Volkswagen Beetle. It's more of a standard just car, I guess. Not even a sports car, just a little car. Pretty decent amount of paint on him, though. The grille is painted black, headlights are painted silver. He's got the metallic blue windshields, Autobot symbol on top, and he doesn't seem to actually have taillights or a license plate. Instead, he's got some interesting tech details here. Not sure what's up with that. His wheels are very plain. They're just the standard, well, you got like a peg through, and then you just got a pin on the front wheels. Underside's pretty clean. The only part of the robot you can really see is the thighs, so that's good. You got his blaster here that stores nice and securely on the underside, which is great. Now, this toy, unfortunately, does not roll well. The back wheels have a hard time not rubbing against the body of the car. So even on a somewhat high friction surface like this, you are going to have some issues with this not really just gliding. So just be aware of that. Doesn't make for a very good Hot Wheels car. And then over here we get Spike's vehicle mode, which is mostly him laying down. And I mean, they mold all the necessary details in there. He has the wheels molded in, though obviously they don't spin or anything. Got kind of like little jet boosters here to show how he'd propel himself forward. And that's really it. Not much to him. He's mostly white plastic with some blue, yellow, and silver paint apps. We'll get a better look at that robot mode in a second. Unfortunately, the backs of his legs are very hollow, so kind of kills the look to an otherwise solid little minifigure. So, yeah. And as you can tell, these guys are quite tiny, but let's do some comparisons to see just how tiny they are. Here we have our three most modern Bumblebees in ascending size order. So we got our new guy here, Titans Return Legends class, and then the new Netflix Deluxe class Bumblebee. Now you can see these two have the most in common visually. They take on the form of more squared off cars, and they use that typical bright yellow that most Bumblebee toys have, whereas the new Netflix toy opts for a more orange color. Basically the same color as the instructions and the packaging for this toy. And now, when I say this dude is small, look at this. Look at that. Like, he's like a good 3/4 of an inch shorter than a Legends class toy. And much shorter than the new Deluxe. Now, granted, I'd expect him to be smaller than the Deluxe, but just to give you an idea of where he stands. So, yeah, I mean, he's really, really tiny, which kind of begs the question, is this whole package really worth the $15 price tag? Because this is the $10 figure right here. So in theory, this thing should be worth at least 10 of the $15 you pay for this, considering how small Spike is. But I'm leaning toward right now that this really isn't worth the price. Plus, even though you can't feel it, I can tell you just by holding these, I mean, this thing's about like half as heavy as this. So it's not like, oh, they're just cleverly folded up mass. Like, no, it really is that small. Here we get Spike's vehicle mode with the only other figure that can pull off a vehicle mode for Spike, and this is the Masterpiece Spike Witwicky that comes with the Masterpiece Bumblebee. The first one, the good one. Now, technically, there's some debate as to whether this character is actually Spike or Daniel, because he's kind of labeled as both on different parts of the packaging, but we're going to call him Spike. So you can see they're going for the same general idea, right? It's an exosuit that's lying down, and it's got wheels on the bottom. However, this one has much more complex transformation. I mean, the arms are all sorts of displaced around, and legs are folded up. This guy, for being a small minifig, they're only going to do so much, so they just flip down his backpack, lay him down. And that's fine. You can see that this is all painted silver. It's not clear, so you can't see any little person on the inside, which probably for the best, again, because, I mean, if they had a head that small, it would probably look like a mess. So yeah, this isn't really so much to compare the two. I mean, the Masterpiece is obviously higher quality, but just so you can see where the design inspiration comes from. Plus, it's worth pointing out that this toy opts for a much, much lighter shade of blue than what this does. This is like a sky blue color right here. So, artistic liberties were taken here. And now it's time for our transformation. So we'll start with Bumblebee. So the first thing you want to do, you want to take these little back wheel wells and flip them out. I'm going to untab them from these arms and stuff and just get them up there. Kind of DeLorean style, right? Speaking of DeLorean, I do have that review on the way for Gigawatt. I just haven't finished it yet. Still behind on everything. Come on, buddy. You can do it. There we go. All right, so you get these up and out of the way. And you're going to kind of wriggle the arms free. tabbed in a few places. I will give this guy credit. Despite being really tiny, he tabs in very securely, which makes for a very solid vehicle mode. Also makes him kind of a pain to transform. Let's go ahead and remove his little black blaster here and set it aside, like so. Then we are going to detach the car hood, kind of pull it down a bit. Separate the feet, and just flip them out like this. These panels will automatically rise up. The feet flip down. Swing his pelvic area down, and you're going to see this tab go into the slot right here. Like so. Then we want to swing this whole section downward, like this. Fold this panel in. Keep it out of the way. Oops. Yeah, these arms are kind of prone to popping off, so just be aware of that. A little tiny ball joint, so it doesn't take much force for these to pop right off. Alright, so just get everything to fold up nice and neatly in there, like so. Make sure the arms are up, positioned correctly, little forearms right. Alright, and that's it. That's a transformation. Now officially, or at least according to the renders and stuff, this is as far as you go. However, you can swing these back all the way if you'd like to, though it might make him a little back heavy. And then we can have him take his blaster, hold it in his hand. Looks like he uses a 3mm port. It's pretty standard for these Legends or Core class size characters. And there it is. This is Bumblebee's robot mode. And he's quite posable. He's got mostly ball joints for everything. So his head can move around. He can even go up and down a bit because this panel that swings up and down. He's got ball jointed shoulders, ball jointed elbows, ball jointed hips. He actually has thigh swivel, believe it or not. And then he's got a hinged knee and ankle rocking. Doesn't have ankle tilt, which is pretty standard for a toy this size. And overall, I mean, he makes for a decent little toy. He's not bad in any way. He's actually got a pretty interesting transformation. Robot mode looks quite solid despite the excessive kibble on the back. He's just really, really small. He's got some really nice silver paint on the face. It's very shiny. Blue painted eyes. Actually gets an Autobot symbol on his chest, unlike our most recent Bumblebee. And he's enjoyable. We're in the middle of transforming things. Let's go ahead and do Spike. You guys ready? All right. Step 1. You're done. So these little boosters just become kind of a backpack, which actually have smaller boosters molded on the inside. So that's a really neat touch. I guess that's for jumping. And the arms do actually articulate. They can swing up and down. They're on a pin, so that's nice. The legs are stationary. The head doesn't turn or anything, so he is still pretty simple. But it's still a neat little minifigure. Pairs well with B. Though I think it's possibly a bit too small in comparison to him. Not totally sure on that one, though. Okay, so let's do a comparison with the other Bumblebees and their robot modes. And you can see that, yet again, this guy is significantly smaller than them. Like, the top of his head comes up to, like, the top of his chest. So, this is a little teeny tiny Bumblebee. I'll say, I still like the look of this character a lot more than I do the Titans Return one. I've never been a fan of that mold. Just kind of silly looking. I think this guy nails that aesthetic a lot better. The only disadvantages I think the new one has is, one, the excessive kibble, which I wish, could fold up against his back or something. And it would have been nice if they painted his hands black. Wouldn't have taken much. The yellow hands are kind of killing it for me. Other than that, I still think that this is probably the superior toy. Now, comparing him to the Deluxe, again, I know it kind of seems unfair because one's a $20 toy, but these are both supposed to be part of War for Cybertron. And it's an odd call that we're getting them in two very different scales. Now, an argument could be made that maybe this, core legend-sized Bumblebee is meant to scale with the other core class toys from Kingdom. And, he is much closer to that size, but even then, well, I'll show you in a minute how he scales compared to Optimus. I will say, though, I really wish, just getting a look at him, I really wish that the Netflix toy had actually used something closer to this yellow and just put that faction symbol on the chest. Like, Why couldn't they do that? It's gonna bug me forever with this guy. For anyone wondering, this little gun right here came from that Centurion drone accessory pack. It's not something that comes with the deluxe Bumblebee, in case you're wondering. And here's that core Optimus, just so you can see how they scale together. And, the answer, unfortunately, is not very well. This Bee, despite him being tiny and definitely smaller than the other core class characters, he's too big for them, right? He actually reaches about the same height in relation to Optimus as he does his Legends class toy. So he's way too big. I mean, just look at his head, right? His head is bigger than Optimus Prime's head. Like, it looks like he doesn't really belong at this scale. He should have been, like, maybe up to Optimus' waist or so. Like, just, it shouldn't go this way. So, again, I'm lost because I don't know what he's supposed to scale with, what his intentions were. It's weird because he is a new mold put out under the War for Cybertron branding, but he doesn't really fit an aesthetic or a size class that falls into that at all. So I don't know where this came from. Like, I have a feeling it was just something that had been designed and, sat on the back burner, but when was this designed? I could see this maybe having been like an old idea for a Legends class one. Maybe that's what the Titans Return Legends was supposed to look like. I don't know. I really don't know. So, my personal advice, even though he's too big to scale with the core class G1 characters, that's still probably the best place for him in a collection. He is a bit too big, but he'll look okay, being part of your ARC playset and stuff whenever that comes out. All right, going back to Spike, we have another comparison with not only the Masterpiece Spike toy, but Titans Return Leonad, or Daniel backwards. If you don't know, this came with the Titans Return RC figure and is meant to represent the binary bonding that Daniel Witwicky underwent with RC to allow his exosuit to turn into her head. So he was her headmaster. So, neat little toy, and I felt like busting it out just so you can see, the same general design aesthetic. They both do go for the whole silver painted, like, head dome thing, which is a clever way of just hiding the fact that there's no actual head underneath there. And I think that's going to conclude our look at the new Bumblebee and Spike Witwicky 2-pack. Again, this thing really just came from out of nowhere. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for where it's placed. I don't know. I mean, I like it. It's fine. They're both solid designs for, the size that they have to pull off. But they do leave me with a lot of questions, like, where do these go in my collection? These are important to me, all right? I need to know these things. Now, I think that the set is very overpriced for what you're getting. Because this Bee is so tiny and just very, very light, like there's not enough mass to it, I think the two of them together should have been a lot closer to $10 than $15. I mean, when you look back at the old Legends classes from, like, the Thrilling 30 days, I mean, they had a Legend-sized toy, which very often was bigger than this dude, and they had, like, a fully transforming partner that was like a Target Master and everything. And those were $10. And yeah, I mean, it was a few years ago, but it really doesn't feel like you're getting the same value here, even when you adjust for inflation and everything. So I think it's overpriced. It might go on clearance. I don't know how popular this item is going to be. I expect at least a lot of these Studio Series Buzzworthy stuff to go on clearance, because a lot of it's just very unpopular figures. This, I don't know what the demand's going to be for it. So if you don't want to pay $15 for it, you might be able to hold out, but you could also risk just having this run out of stock and never seeing it. So it could go either way. Personally, I mean, I bought it, right? So the price wasn't too outlandish, but I do think it's not worth what they're asking. I think $10, even if it's like a slimmer $10 for their profit margin, I think would have been much more reasonable, because they still would have made a profit off of this easily. There's enough of a demand for a Bumblebee and Spike 2-pack to where this would sell well, they'd get their money's worth. And that's the weird thing about Target exclusives, is sometimes they're really greatly priced, right? Like, look at the Rainmakers 3-pack. I think it was 3 of them for like $70, $80, so you're getting a really good deal there. But then you get something like the new Ectotron, it's like $60 for a Voyager. Target can't seem to make up with their mind whether or not they want to give you a good deal. So, do I recommend this? Yeah, for the most part. It's not a must-have unless you really want a Spike Witwicky figure. The deluxe Bumblebee is much better than this one. And that actually at least, has some scale that it works with. This is just kind of an oddity that you can have in your collection. You can ignore it. Personally, I'll probably put him with Kingdom just because of the, package artwork. It looks like that's kind of where he belongs. I'm just going to headcanon this as, Bumblebee and Spike from the future that show up in Kingdom the same way Galvatron and them do. We'll see. Maybe it'll come into play in the show. Probably won't. So yeah, he's moderately recommended. Of course, that is just my take on this 2-pack. Now, what I want to know is what you all think of this set. Are you excited to get this? Does this tickle your fancy for G1 characters? Do you think the price is reasonable? Or do you not like this? Is it too simple, too small, or just too redundant? Any and all feedback's always welcome in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. And thank you for joining me for this look at the brand new Transformers Buzzworthy Bumblebee, War for Cybertron, Bumblebee and Spike 2-pack. And with all that said, I will see you next time.